Hi everyone, this is Mary, you're on Mary Reads. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the one I'm very excited about because it's getting colder and I decided to share my fall reading plans and then give some recommendations of the books that I think are going to be great for fall so that maybe you can find something that will interest you. And before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps a lot and I appreciate it. So let's start with my reading plans. I will have more books than this. These are just the ones that I'm really hoping to finish by the end of November. Most of them are kind of fall related, fall coded, or at least this is how I see them. So let's start with this one. It's called The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. It's the 19th century mystery thriller, one of the first mystery thrillers. And the synopsis of this novel promises us mistaken identities, secrets, surprise revelations, amnesia, locked rooms, and asylums. So a lot of interesting topics, and it will be somehow connected to the woman in white who is dressed in white head to toe, and she is very solitary, and our main character meets this woman, and I assume he will try to figure out who she is, but I don't really know where the story will take me, but I'm very excited about it. The second novel I'm trying to read is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I've read all of Jane Austen's novels, but somehow I forgot the plot of each one of them except Pride and Prejudice and Emma. I don't know what's with me, but I just keep forgetting. So I decided that it's finally time to break this cycle. And I want to reread Persuasion, maybe take notes to finally remember what the novel is about. This is the last fully written novel by Jane Austen, and it tells a story of two lovers who are separated by class distinctions. So I assume we will have Jane Austen's irony and satire. I assume we will have a lot of love and hopefully a happy ending. So I'm very excited about taking this novel. I think this is something that I'm going to be reading in September. At least I'm going to try. The next novel is Tess of D'Urbervilles, and I've been talking about this novel for so long. I just can't read it. I don't know what's with me. So hopefully this fall I'm going to be able to finally read it. I'm very excited about it. This is the novel my grandma recommended me a while ago, and I found it in the bookstore last year and I was like, I have to take it. So this is the novel about Tess, a young dairymaid who leaves her small rural town to escape poverty. And there is a rumor that says that Tess is somehow connected to the family of wealthy D'Urbervilles. They have some same relatives. I don't know like how far in this in their family tree, but it looks like they share blood, and Tess will try to claim this connection to become rich, to become wealthy, and start a different life. And the next book is Custom of the Country by Edith Wharton. And we bought this book with my husband when we were on our honeymoon, and we went to Edith Wharton's museum. So it's the house she lived in, and it is a museum now. So they obviously were selling her novels, and this is the one we got. It reminded me of Sister Carrie that I really liked, so I decided that we should take it. I found more Edith Wharton's novels in the library, so hopefully I will have time to read a couple others, but this is the one I want to start with. And The Custom of the Country tells a story of a young girl who goes to, I think, New York to start a different life, to become wealthy, to meet new people, find a rich husband, and we will kind of follow her journey and see if she can find the life she wants. And the next book is from 12 Forgotten Books, and it's Stephen King's 11/22/63. This is a novel about a young English teacher who finds a portal to the past at his friend's diner, and he travels to the past to try and save Kennedy from the assassination. I think this is one of the most famous Stephen King's novels, and I've heard that it's the one where you don't get his horror. It's more like a psychological thriller, I would assume. and I'm very excited about reading it. Plus, in general, I think JFK's assassination is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of theories about what happened, and I want to see Stephen King's version and see if maybe JFK will be saved. The next novel that I've wanted to read for a while now is Bram Stoker's Dracula. And in this story, Jonathan, who is a solicitor, takes a business trip to Transylvania, and he stays at the castle of a very wealthy gentleman, Count Dracula. I don't know what's gonna happen. This is the only information I know. So I'm very excited about this book. I want to see if we are gonna get kind of typical vampire stories or if it's in any way connected. So what's gonna happen there? I have no idea, and I'm very, very interested. And finally, I want to read the Hannibal Lecter series of books. There are 4 books. So just in general, kind of the overview of the series. This is the novel, or rather novels, about the relationship between an FBI detective and a forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is secretly a serial killer and also a cannibal. I haven't watched the TV show or movie, so I didn't see any sort of adaptations, so I don't really know what to expect, but I've heard that the books are amazing and I'm super excited about finally getting to know the story. Now, let's move to the recommendations. I'm not going to talk about each book very closely, just because about some of these I've already made videos before, but there are definitely books that I want to mention. So we will go through those that I've already made videos about kind of quickly. It will be a short overview, and then I will talk a little bit more about the books that I haven't mentioned in any of my previous videos before. And the first book that I want to recommend is Donna Tartt's Secret History. I think this is a pretty obvious recommendation. I think I might have even talked about it last year. I have a feeling I made a video with fall recommendations last year. So this is basically one of the most known, one of the most classic novels in dark academia genre. This is kind of like it's not a murder mystery because we know what happens from literally the first 2 pages. This is more like a psychological trauma that follows committing a crime. We are in a setting of a private university. We get this privileged group of 5 kids who study Greek, who study mythology, and this is just a great kind of a dark fall story that I think is going to be amazing. If you haven't read this book, you are about to start a great journey. And if you want to know a little bit more about this book, I will link the video where I mentioned this book down below. So hopefully you will be able to get a little bit more information from there. The next book is kind of dark academia. It was published when dark academia wasn't a thing yet. But now that we have dark academia as a genre, we can see that it's kind of similar and you get the same idea. Though in my personal opinion, it's not as dark, even though it is definitely sad. So this book is Dead Poets Society, and this novel is about a group of boys who study in isolated preparatory school where it's expected from them that they are going to be excellent in their subjects. So the excellence is expected from teachers, from their parents, and they are kind of constantly under this pressure. And everything changes when they get a new English teacher who practices different methods of education that these boys are not used to. The story is definitely sad, but it's beautiful. And if you like the book, watch a movie, because the movie is also great, and Robin Williams stars as a teacher there. So it's absolutely amazing, and I recommend this book and the movie to everyone. The next novel that I've already mentioned, but I have to mention it again, I'm absolutely in love with it, and it's Sister Carrie by Theodore Dreiser. It's kind of similar to The Custom of the Country, I think, at least based on what the summary of this book says. I think they're going to be kind of similar. It's about this girl, Carrie, who moves to Chicago to live with her sister. And she starts working at a factory, But she soon realizes that this is not the life she wants. She wants to be rich. She wants to be in a higher society. So she meets a man that introduces her to the society. And in this society, she finds another man who is already married, but he falls in love with her and she falls in love with him. And they move to New York to start their life. But nothing is that easy, and Carrie goes through a lot of life choices and life changes, and her now husband goes through those as well. And throughout the book, you just see how people can get all they need and all they want, and how others can lose everything they had just in a span of a couple of days. The novel broke my heart, but it's so beautiful. It's amazing. I think I could relate to it in some matters, and I think most of us will be able to relate to it. So I really recommend this novel if you haven't read it yet. Now here, I don't want to spend a lot of times talking about these books, but if you're looking for cozy fall mysteries, Adventures of Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie's mysteries, these are the recent ones that I got. I'm going to talk about them in the September wrap-up, but about Agatha Christie, just a couple things that I want to say. I would suggest reading the novels that do not explicitly say that they're about summer or they're about winter. For example, I would say that Death on the Nile is definitely a summer mystery, and I would recommend reading it in summer. Or for example, The Murder on the Orient Express is the mystery that I would read in winter. But for example, Halloween Story, this is an Hercule Poirot mystery, or some other ones that don't mention a particular season can absolutely be read in the fall, and you're definitely going to enjoy those. The next book that I want to recommend is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I've recently finished this book. I'm going to talk about it in my wrap-up for September. But I think it's just an amazing adventure novel. If you are looking for a fairy tale to read in the fall, fairy tale for adults, obviously, this is something that you might be interested in. And the story follows a man who lives in London, and one day he saves a girl, and this leads him to going to a completely different world that's called London Below. He meets new people. He goes through a lot of changes himself as a person. He meets monsters. You can't trust anybody in that world. And I absolutely love the story. So I think this is something to check out if you are into these fairy tales for adults. And the next novel is called How to Solve Your Own Murder. This is a very cozy murder mystery, and I've talked about it in one of my previous videos. It was Canada Reading Vlog. I will link it down below in case you want to know more about the book. But basically, we follow two timelines in this story. The first one being a story of a young girl in 1960s. When she's 17, she finds out that she will be murdered one day, and her whole life she's trying to solve the murder that hasn't happened yet. And now in modern time, we have her great niece who comes to her great aunt's estate because her aunt is killed, and she is somehow connected. She's now in the will, so they need to figure out who gets the money. And she will be trying to solve her great aunt's case. This is a very nice and easy to read mystery. I really liked it. I will say that it's probably a one-time read, but I think it's great. And if you are looking for something easy to read in one of those cold, dark fall days, this is definitely something to try out. The next novel is The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and I've read this book in summer. I've talked about it already in my, I think, August wrap-up, but I might be wrong. It might have been June and July. So this novel talks about a phantom, a ghost that haunts the Paris Opera House. And our ghost falls in love with a singer, a soprano singer. And this is how a lot of tragic and difficult events start. And we follow those events. We follow the soprano singer and how her life changes once the Phantom confesses that he is in love with her. The next book is 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and I've also talked about this book in one of my wrap-ups, but I just wanted to quickly mention it. It's a very fun kind of a murder mystery. So we get a man who wakes up in a different body every day, and he tries to solve a murder of Evelyn Hardcastle. And every day he wakes up is the same day, so he relives the same day but just in different bodies. And we're gonna try to figure out who the murderer is, what happened, why is he waking up in different bodies, so what's going on, what kind of a world we live in. I have to say that sometimes I thought that it was becoming a little bit boring, just because for like 8 times you relive the same story, but in the end of the day it's very fun. I definitely didn't expect what I learned. I could not solve this murder, and I think it's absolutely worth reading. It probably wasn't fully my cup of tea. Maybe I would give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I don't remember what I gave it last time, but like how I feel about it now, 6 or 7, but it's definitely worth reading. And the next novel is Lady Audley's Secret. I think I've read it in my 3 books in 3 days marathon. And this is a Victorian version of a mystery thriller. It's pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. I figured out what's going on pretty fast, but I think the main idea is the whole investigation. So a young Lucy Graham marries this older man, Sir Audley, and at the same time, Sir Audley's nephew loses his friend. He cannot find his friend. Something happened to him, and he starts investigating his step-aunt just to find out that her life has a lot of secrets, a lot of mysteries, and even murder. And the last book I want to talk about and recommend is No Longer Human. I've also read it in the 3 books in 3 days marathon, and I loved it. I put my copy somewhere, I couldn't find it, but this is a story of a man who is trying to just understand life. He goes through life not understanding basic human feelings that we all feel and understand. And since he was a child, he was like this, and he was questioning everything. So in the 130 pages of the book, we basically start questioning our everyday life, and we see life through his eyes, and it's kind of just a very different perspective. It's a very interesting picture that I have never seen before. So it's a Japanese author, so of course we kind of see life through this Japanese philosophy. I feel like Japanese authors have a very different way of writing from European and American authors, and it was my first Japanese author. I have never read anything by Japanese authors before, and this was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it, and I want to continue exploring Asian literature and Japanese literature in particular after reading this novel. So if you have not yet encountered Japanese authors, Japanese novels, this is my recommendation. I think it's great for the fall. It's very, very interesting, and I really think that this is a book worth reading. These were all of my plans and recommendations. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any book recommendations for the fall, or maybe you have any plans for this fall. Please let me know, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.